Before we begin our watercolor sunflowers, I wanted to explain how our sunflowers are inspired by Vincent van Gogh. So who was Vincent van Gogh? Born on March 30th in 1853 in the Netherlands, Van Gogh is considered one of the greatest of the post-impressionists. Van Gogh's art became astoundingly popular after his death, especially in the late 20th century, when his work sold for record-breaking sums at auctions around the world. This is one of 5 versions of sunflowers on display in museums and galleries across the world. Sunflowers was originally titled Tournesols, which is French. "The sunflower is mine," Van Gogh once declared. No other artist has been so closely associated with a specific flower, and these pictures are among Van Gogh's most iconic and best-loved works. Originally, these colors were bright, vivid yellows. Today they look brown and dull because they are made from oil paint, which fades over time.
Alright, I hope you enjoyed a very brief lesson on Van Gogh and his sunflowers. So let's get started. I have my watercolor paper and I have it taped down because if you remember from other videos, paper likes to curl when we add water to it. So I just have it taped down with painter's tape on my desk. You can always you can always tape it to a clipboard or a hardcover book. You can even use it in a pad of watercolor paper without peeling it out. So I taped my paper down, and what I did last night, I took glue and I used the glue to outline my design. So what I actually did, and you can't really see it that well, but I went through and created some stems, and I did some outlines of some sunflowers. So you're going to use your glue, and you're actually going to use it as the outline. So kind of like what you're seeing me do right now. And it doesn't have to be perfect. It can have some breaks in it. It's going to actually come out to look a little more interesting the more imperfections it has. So don't worry so much about getting an even line or a straight line when you're using your glue to create your design of your flowers. They don't have to be sunflowers, but I really like sunflowers and it's that time of the year for them. So I let this dry overnight. It does take a couple of hours for Elmer's glue to completely dry, and it dries pretty much clear. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take my a wet brush and my watercolor palette, and I'm going to start with the background. You should always start with the background. All right, and what you're going to see is that glue that dried kind of creates a barrier. Now I need to see, oh, there it is. So I want to paint, and stop where that line is. So it's creating that barrier. Now I'm going to use a couple different blues. This is a really good opportunity to practice those techniques that we did in a different video. I'm going to do a little bit of wet on wet to really get a pretty blend. If you want, you can go grab your salt or plastic wrap or a cotton ball and practice those lifting techniques. One technique I didn't go over that you can also do, you can use rubbing alcohol. Rubbing alcohol creates a really cool effect with watercolor paint as well. Alright, so I have my sky painted. I'm going to go in and do some grass and the leaves. All right, so when you are done with your watercolors, we're gonna do our third and final step, and we're gonna get a thin Sharpie marker, upside down, and I'm gonna trace the dried glue lines so that it kind of creates a more visually appealing outline. So I'm just going to kind of trace both sides of the glue. Now it's important to make sure your watercolors are completely dry, or your Sharpie is going to bleed right into the paper, like mine is. So we're just going to trace both sides of our glue outline. It's okay if you go on the glue. I'm going to try and stay on the paper. Alright, and you're going to keep tracing your glue outline across your entire picture. You can actually go in and even trace some of the finer details if you want. Like maybe I want to trace this different color variation. So take your Sharpie or a black pen or a black marker and trace your glue outline, and I'll show you what it'll look like when it's done.